Hello students, we will start with the fifth chapter, that is food safety. Now we all know that it's important for us to consume proper food. Proper diet is very important for our body. We consume various constituents of food, that is we consume carbohydrate, fats, proteins, vitamins, minerals, fiber and water. And these they make a proper amount of nutrients that is required for the growth of our body. All these constituents are very much important for the growth of our body. But it can happen that the food that we consume that gets spoiled. And it is very important for us that we do not consume the spoiled food. So we'll talk about food safety in this chapter. Now children, when we will say that the food is spoiled or the food is not good for our consumption. So food is said to be spoiled if there is change in its color, its odor, its texture, the quality changes, the taste of the food changes, and also if there is a lot of nutrients which should be there in the food but it is lost. So if see that the nutrients are lost, so this also leads to the spoilage, or you can say that the food is spoiled. Now here in this picture you can see that at different events the food is not proper, but in some places the food is proper. So if the food is spoiled, the color, the texture, the odor of the food will change. Now children, the food that we consume, either we consume the plant or animal source of food. So it is important for us to consume the food in best quality. Now here in this picture you can see that the food is not proper. It is having growth of various like fungus is grown. The fruit is not proper. Even the fruit has ripened. So all these things, it changes the quality of the food. Also, if you consume such type of food, you will fall prey to various diseases and it will also lead to illness. In most cases, it also leads to food poisoning. Also, you must have seen that if the food is not handled properly, it can be because of improper transportation or improper storage. It can be of any type of food. So there are growth of various microbes which take place. Like here you can see that mold is formed. The bacteria which is there in the milk that has spoiled the milk. Even yeast, it leads to spoilage. So in this way, the microbes, they grow on the food and they spoil the food. So for it, it is very important for us to handle the food properly, to store the food properly, and if you are transporting food from one place to the other place, it is important for us to transport it in a proper manner. Now the food can also be get spoiled because of various chemical reactions which take place. Now for example, if food is stored in metal container, it will react with it, there will be a chemical reaction and the food can be spoiled. And microorganisms can also contaminate the food. It can be carried through air, water or soil. So that is why proper storage is important. Another topic is related to food wastage. Now we waste lot of amount of food. That is, we will take a lot in our plate, but we throw most of the food. Now food wastage take place qualitatively as well as quantitatively. It is important for us to cook the food properly, also to reuse the food in a proper way. If the food is left, you should at least use it in the next day if it is proper. Also, the various foods, like for example the grains or vegetables, these should be stored properly so that it do not get spoiled and the food wastage can be prevented. Also, whenever we buy any type of packaged food, we should always check the expiry date of that food so that we can have more time to use that food and it will not get wasted. Also, whatever is there in your plate, you should consume, you should eat everything. You should not leave or throw the food. So, all these things will prevent the wastage of food. The first type of wastage is the quantitative wastage of food. That is when wrong methods of farming and inadequate threshing or improper storage are used and wrong method of distribution are done, then it can lead to quantitative wastage of food. That is, a lot of food is destroyed. So such wastage of food is called as the quantitative wastage of food. Also, the quantitative wastage of food take place during any traditional feast. So in these things also, the wastage of food should be prevented. Next type is the qualitative wastage of food. Now, the qualitative wastage of food happens, for example, if you cut the vegetable first and then you wash it. So that means the nutrients which should be there, those are lost. That is called as the qualitative wastage of food. Qualitative wastage also involves overcooking or excessive use of food preservatives that people add. And also, the transportation is not proper, the timings are not proper, and by the time the food reaches to the consumer, it is already spoiled. So this is called as the qualitative wastage of the food. So children, we should try that the food is not wasted and there is zero waste. Whatever waste that is generated from the food, that also should be utilized in a good manner. It can be used in the form of fertilizers, for example, the peelings of vegetable or the eggshells. These things can be used in form of fertilizers. So in this way, we will reduce the waste and also we will reduce the harmful effects which is happening in the environment. So food is also prevented and less waste is also generated. Next topic is food storage and preservation. Now you must have learned about different method how to store the food. Like for example, we can freeze it, by drying you can store the food, or by boiling, or in airtight packing and all. So in all these things, we can prevent the harmful effect of food spoilage, and also food can be preserved for a very long time. So for this, food protection and preservation is very important. Now children, according to the Food Safety and Standardization Authority of India, that is FSSAI, you must have seen that this symbol, that is FSSAI, is printed on many food stuff that you get. You can even check the packets of Maggi and all, there you will see the symbol. So they have established the Food Safety and Standardization Act in 2006. And also on 16th October, World Food Day is celebrated, in which we tell people and we aware people that the food should not be wasted and food wastage should be avoided. Now there are two things, that is food protection and food preservation. Now prevention of food spoilage by microbial growth or because of any pest, harm to the food because of any pest, is called as food protection. That is, you are protecting the food from any microbial growth. Next is food preservation, that is use of various preservative to preserve it for a very long time. For example, we preserve pickle, we add a lot amount of salt and vinegar to it. In this way, the food is preserved for a longer time. That is, you're adding some preservatives to it. This prevents the food spoilage because of various factors. This is called as food preservation. So these are the two things, that is food protection from any microbial growth and food preservation by adding some type of preservatives. The best method to protect the food is by preservation. So you can protect the food by freezing. It is a very common method. It is usually used at our house. The food is being stored in the refrigerator at low temperature and it prevents the growth of bacteria. So freezing is the most common method that is used. Next is smoking. Smoking also helps to kill the microbes, and so smoking is also a method to preserve the food. Next is use of insecticides. So in gunny bags the fungus can grow. So that is why insecticides or the pesticides are used, so that the harmful bacteria, the growth of harmful pest insects can be avoided. Next is irradiation. That is, we use X-rays and gamma rays to kill the harmful effects. That is, it will increase the shelf life of the fruit and also will help to the fruit to not ripen. Next is we use the inert gases. That is, if you will see the packets, that is of wafers and biscuits, you will find that there is some amount of nitrogen gas which is filled in. So that is to avoid the growth of fungus and insects in them. Another method is by preservative. That is, you can use any natural preservative like salt or sugar, or you can also use chemical preservatives. Another important method is pasteurization. Now in this method was actually discovered by Louis Pasteur, and that is why it is called as pasteurization. Now in pasteurization, food or milk, it is heated at a very high temperature, and then after heating it, it is cooled quickly. So it destroys the microbes which are present in the milk or food. So pasteurization helps to prevent the food from any growth of microbes. Next important thing related to food safety is adulteration of food. Now, food adulteration is a process in which the quality of the food is lowered either by addition of any quality material. It can be inferior or the exterior material. Now, many times harmful chemicals like carbonated soda or phosphoric acid are mixed with the cold drink. Also, in red chili powder, brick powder is added. In this way, many foods are adulterated. In milk, water can be added, or any other substance which gives similar taste can also be added. So to avoid adulteration of food, as per the Prevention of Food Adulteration Act, if anybody involved in adulteration of food with harmful substance, they will get life imprisonment. Because if you adulterate the food, if you spoil the food, you are playing with people's life. So that is why it is very strict. The act was passed, and if any person is found doing it, they will get life imprisonment. So all these things were related to food safety, and indirectly it is related to our health.